I now call this meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
John Moreland.
Here.
Owen Curley.
Here.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Here.
Jeff Trular.
Here.
Dan O'Malley. Todd Smith. Jennifer Williams.
Here. Thank you and welcome everybody. The Board of Adjustment meetings are quasi-judicial in nature. All decisions of the board will be based on competent substantial evidence, including testimony provided in this meeting. Any person who is not an applicant or agent who wishes to speak will need to fill out a speaker's card located on the side table by the door and turn them into the clerk. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each item. Please refrain from speaking from the audience. Applause and cheering will not be allowed, and please silence your cell phones. Can we move on to approval of the minutes, please?
No
We
minutes.
have minutes from last week, that's right. And I don't see any correspondence.
Yep.
Aside from what's specific to each case. Correct. So we will move on to old business. Can you please call the first case of old business?
Board calls BOA 22-100092. Motion to consider 34-377 for 6 on-site parking spaces in lieu of 14 required to allow for construction of a second-story office space addition and a third-story auxiliary dwelling unit to an existing one-story office building.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none. And I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Matthew Retz, and are you referring to my business address or my home address? 1201 North 3rd Street is the business that is being discussed today, and I live off of the Circle on office.
Could you speak a little bit better?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Is this thing on? Okay.
Thank you. And can you please tell us the nature of your hardship at this property?
Basically, we've been a local staple in the Jacksonville community for about 25 years. The business has grown to capacity with regard to its current brick and mortar situation, so we have the option of either staying here locally and building, or we have to move. And we obviously love Jacksonville Beach and want to stay here and continue to do business here, so we're asking for a variance for parking. We currently own 6 spaces, but there's also 6 spaces on the side of the building that is not owned currently by the city, but has been used exclusively for the business for the last 25 years. So we're looking for a variance to try to get more parking spaces into the building.
Are you going to buy those 6 spaces that do not belong to you?
I didn't know that you could buy them from the city. I thought it was city property. If that's an option, I'm certainly willing to entertain that.
But the 6 additional spaces that you're referring to are city parking, public parking spaces.
Currently, yes, ma'am. The survey shows that there's on the east side of the building currently 6 spaces that's owned in the parcel of land, and then on the south side of the building is 6 additional spaces that is exclusively used by tax advantage customers. And then there's also 1 space that's off of A1A directly in front of the building as well. So in totality, we're speaking about 13 total spaces, but I also understand and respect the rules that I technically only own 6. So we've had discussions with neighboring companies who are also willing to draft a lease if we need to lease additional parking spaces. But as I spelled out in the variance application, we would be looking to you for the direction of exactly what number of those spaces will be needed, because we do know that the addition of the 2nd floor would double our parking needs, and then the 3rd floor being residential would also require 1 or 2 more spaces as well.
What are your current parking needs? What do you actually use it?
Yes, sir. So the back of the building is where the employees typically park, and I also, in that variance application, I kind of spelled out a lot of these details as well. The 6 spaces on the side are rarely, if ever, completely full because of the nature of our business. We've got 3 employees that are actually client-facing, so at a maximum, 3 people will be in the office at a time, which is rare for all 3 people to be seeing a client at the same time. We we are a tax preparation business, so it's typically I'm gonna drop my stuff off, I'm gonna pick my stuff up kind of thing. And then obviously with COVID-19, we suddenly moved much further into a more digital type of transaction. The next floor is storage and also back office space. So there won't really be any additional client-facing professionals, but we do need to expand. My current office manager is actually sitting in the file room. So we're at a place where we're very blessed and we're excited about it, but we also have to find a solution to the current challenge.
And when you put that second floor on, then how many more employees are gonna come in?
3 to 5 potentially.
And will they be in your business, or will you be renting the space?
Oh, no, sir, they'll be a part of tax advantage.
And I understand the question of the growing business, but what drove the purpose of having residential in there as well? I don't see.
Yes, sir. So that effectively is, I mean, I'm not sure if anybody has public accounting experience, but for that 10-week period between February and April 15th, and also with the extension deadline between September 15th and October 15th, we work some pretty rigorous hours. And so, being as I don't live at the beach, it would A, be an efficiency to be able to just sleep in the studio upstairs, or B, from a safety perspective, you know, after working that many hours and kind of gassing out those last 2 weeks, it's always attractive to be able to just sleep upstairs.
So your plan is not to rent to a tenant?
No, sir. Okay, sorry.
And can you elaborate a little bit more? I know you said that you've been in talks with nearby businesses for, you know, leasing more spaces if need be.
Yes.
I'm guessing that there's nothing concrete as of right now.
No, ma'am, the only reason that I didn't want to be that proactive is because I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time, and so I didn't want to go through the process of asking them to actually go through the document drafting. So we've talked both to the chiropractic that's behind us, and then also across the street, there's a building that has a few businesses in it with limited amounts of extra parking, and they're also a client of ours, so it's been discussed, and they just said basically, let us know what you need kind of thing. But I don't want to impose on people or ask for favors that if you guys say that, unless I have some direction of what you guys would be asking for us to do.
And these people that you might get some spaces from do not need those spaces for their own count to have legal parking.
Not even remotely close. It's pretty big in both of those businesses. We joke, the reason I smile, I don't mean to be cheeky, but the chiropractic, we wonder sometimes what's going on because we don't ever see cars there. And then across the street, there's a long strip that like backs up to the condominium. And I thought originally that the condos owned them, but they don't. All those spaces belong there, and they're never so.
So they're city spaces.
No, sir. They're owned by that business.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
And do you have an idea of the actual number of potential spaces that you could enter into some sort of agreement to use?
It may be a bit myopic, but my understanding was that I would potentially have to proposition them for 2 to 3 spaces, just because of the current layout that we've got would be 14. I know it doesn't include the stuff that we own, but just the stuff that's used basically exclusively by us would render us to need potentially 1 other space, but to be conservative, I was thinking 2 to 3, because I understand the residential rules is a minimum of 2. So if we got 6 for the first floor, 6 for the second floor, and 1 out front, it potentially put us in a position to be 2, 3 absolute max.
But that's also factoring in the 6 public spaces that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
utilize.
That's why I said I didn't want to be myopic or assumptuous. And then another thing to kind of consider is that the residential piece, we would effectively be double counting that spot, because as the owner of the business, I would be there during business hours, and then since I'd be sleeping there, it would obviously be off business hours, so like, that would effectively be 2 spots for that. And again, I also brought a copy of all of this that I spelled out if anybody's interested in obtaining it, and it spells out all of those different
I believe,
qualitative factors.
is that what you submitted to the city staff prior?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was in our packet, but
Okay.
I mean, you're welcome to if anybody wants a hard copy. But that was included in our packet. Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
I've none.
I have no.
Okay, then you can be seated for now, and I will open this item for public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards?
No speaker cards on this, this is.
Okay. Is there anyone in the, and no correspondence in the front?
No correspondence on this.
Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? And if so, please make sure you fill out a speaker's card before you leave. Okay, hearing none, I will ask once again, does the board have any questions of the applicant? Okay, then I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100092. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for a variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
I'll second for discussion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I can't support approval of this. I don't think we should make exceptions for public use for park. You know, how does the board before, you know, and, you know, we've never had an agreement going into any kind of, because those all can be reneged at any time for any kind of usage of another parking. It's not in perpetuity, those parking agreements.
The one time that we have done so, though, the Catholic Church actually gave us something in writing to, we could be, yeah, I would be very opposed to this unless he could come in and document and have written affidavits that in fact these neighbors will provide parking spaces and that will not threaten their parking status. And I would encourage him to consider to ask us not to make a decision tonight and to try and see what he can come up with to document the reality of these spaces as opposed to the mythical nature of these spaces.
Well, how would it be monitored though? If we're, I mean, to the extent that somebody he's leasing from, if he's purchasing or renting the spaces, if they should move their businesses in the future, how is this going to be monitored? Like you were saying, it's not in perpetuity, so that would be one question that I have.
Through the chair,
That's a good question.
If there's no,
if you guys can think back to the Jet Set Pets variance,
yeah.
what you guys did was basically condition that they had to get that agreement. The agreement's actually ratified through the planning director, so in this case, we basically wouldn't let them move forward with the construction until they provided those agreements. You could specify a period of time that they need to be for. There's actually language in the code that says,
So it come up for renewal somehow.
But the agreement would have to be for fulfillment of all parking spots required, not the 6 plus the 2.
basically it requires a deed restriction according to the code.
Yes.
So in essence, they would have to provide some, you know, actual legal recorded instrument that would provide that guarantee in the future. So if anyone bought that property, they would understand that a percentage of those parking spaces that they,
Aren't there?
yeah.
Forever, like for perpetuity?
Yeah, it'd be part of the property, be recorded.
So in theory, if this board were to approve based on the condition that a parking lease with neighboring businesses was secured, but then he failed to secure such a lease, then he wouldn't be granted his, like, permits and work orders to begin the work.
I think we should accept that lease, correct? The restriction is.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, what, to do that, we conditioned upon that, but he failed to secure it, then,
It would be the same thing as him not getting the variance, in which case he wouldn't move forward.
How is this different than a fee simple purchase? I mean, if they're making an agreement that we can use this property forevermore, I mean, that's a fee, I mean, they would be selling the property essentially.
In essence, it doesn't have to be contiguous. They can be within 300 feet. So he could in fact purchase the right, but not the property, so he's not splitting a lot into a little tiny piece that we may not consider buildable. We try to discourage, you know, splitting properties into non-buildable segments. So this would be a way for him to get the right
Like
without,
a right of way or something. Yeah.
in essence, yeah.
To use that parking, or however many parking spots that they would have. You know,
well, as convoluted as that might be for him, I'm inclined to entertain that just because, you know, hearing the applicant speak about the nature, not only the nature of his business, but also the fact that, according to his testimony, the residential space is not going to be leased out to a third party. You know, that's perhaps worth factoring in, because if it was leased out to somebody, that could be an additional, you know, 4 cars maybe that are parking there at a time, or at least 2. But knowing that it may only be occupied by people who are already parking there for business purposes.
So it looks like the city's recommending 6 spots for the business and 2 additional spots for the residential. And so if
Six
there's
spots for each floor, so six
6 altogether,
6 more.
6 more, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, 6
Okay.
more spots and then 2 more for the residential, which is 8 spots in
Yes.
total.
14.
And what I was going to suggest is, or the question would be, do they really need 8 spots since it is the people in the business that would be sleeping there, or would it still be just 6?
In that same breath, there's nothing holding us to that, his requirement that it would only be 2 people in business, they could rent. it.
Exactly, no, that's a part of the
Yes,
discussion,
that- that
for
testifies
sure.
in that whole-
Correct.
Mhm.
That's why I think it should be, if we fulfill
It
it,
would
it's
be
a full 14.
Well, they need additional-
But none of the 14 could
Approach the public.
encroach into the public parking spaces. They would have to be either on his property, or he would have to have an agreement, or a deed, whatever you said, for spaces on other people's property.
And sorry, just to clarify, Christian, since we're considering the total of 14 parking spaces, were those number of spaces just based on square footage or the type of business as well?
So it's for office use, and that's a square footage calculation, and then residential, the dwelling unit requires 2 spaces in minimum. So it's a combination.
Okay, so office is sort of all encapsulating of
Any
a
professional
variety of
business, yeah.
administrative type. Okay.
Things like medical office or retail have different standards. But when they went through that change of use, because they had to go through the clerk's office to get a new business license, we would capture that they were changing the use, and then that variance would need to be either expanded or something along those lines, because they wouldn't be able to meet it with whatever parking agreements they had.
And I would, am I correct in assuming that this is one of the, like, lower use?
Yes,
Lower-
yeah.
lower
Outside of
parking
industrial
spaces.
office is definitely one of the lowest
Okay.
parking requirements.
But it still is 14 spaces that he needs to come up with.
Yes, no, I know.
So he has 6, and then needs 8. Is that, am I reading that
Yes,
right?
he needs to come up with 8 additional spaces per code.
There is also the option, which I think maybe we actually did for Jet Set, which was the, for a mix of uses, you can have a shared parking agreement. And that is the thing which would basically be a lease that they could get.
That is acceptable.
It's an acceptable option. It, again, falls under the planning director, and they can basically reduce the total number of required spaces by having a shared parking agreement. It would, you know, be something like places that have offsetting hours, or if they're underutilized, they have to demonstrate that, but then it could be something that the planning director could approve. It has, obviously, you know, less perpetuity.
And that's something that the planning director would have to approve before construction.
Correct, yeah, it would be, if you conditioned it on the variance, it would be required to be met. It does say long-term lease agreement, so, you know, you could specify a number of years that could be required.
We would be planning development director separate.
You would make it a condition, and then we would enforce it in essence.
So what's considered long-term?
And years.
I mean, the applicant said he's been here for a number of years,
25
so.
years. He's been doing this for 25 years.
You know, my inclination is to vote down this motion and let him start over again. And come in next time with the documentation that we're requiring.
But does it come back with a variation of the request, typically 25%?
If he, well, honestly, the way the code is written, if he gets deeded off-site parking, that would meet the parking standards. So he wouldn't need a variance at that point. If he came back with a shared parking agreement, it would, yeah, in essence, he'd need a variance to count those.
So we still have the opportunity to correct this for his business.
Right.
We wouldn't shut it down from day one, that's what I'm sure.
Well, if we deny it, though, we would have to wait.
Right, yeah, I mean, I would say if you're wanting to see a shared parking agreement ahead of time, then, as Mr. Moreland stated, defer it.
Defer, okay.
If you only want to give them the option of deed restricted, you either condition it or deny it, and you have to go that route to meet the parking requirement.
So we have a pending motion now. How would we defer it? Do we have to modify it to defer the action?
Cindy, weigh in. Are we doing
Ricky,
okay?
that's it.
No, sir, based on parliamentary procedure, that motion takes precedent over the one that's pending, so you just need to defer or continue with this to another day. Like I say, a specific date, if you have, maybe 2 meetings out.
Give the applicant an opportunity to secure this, so that's what we're trying to make sure.
So, how about we get some opportunity?
Within 2 months.
We can give you the next couple meeting dates if that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's October 4th and October 18th are our next 2 meetings, and then it would be November 1st. So would we want to defer it to November 1st?
Up to November 1st, and if he gets it done tomorrow.
True, and then you can come back on the
Yeah,
4th.
yeah.
Well, if you defer it to a date specific, anyone who was here or was watching that would want to come back would need to know what that date was.
And you're
Well,
going to publish.
I move that we defer the current motion until the November 1st meeting.
I would second that.
Discussion, I support that.
Okay, so that would then require him to come up with a shared parking agreement
Or
A proposal of some,
or parking lease.
For how many years?
So we didn't vote on that, but we would just say probably some form of long-term.
I mean, I can work with the applicant and see
Yeah.
what they want to produce, so you guys can consider if they bring
Yes,
this back.
right. Okay.
And do we need to do a roll call on that, on the motion to defer
Yes.
as well? Okay. Any further discussion?
I've done.
Yeah.
Can we have a roll call, please?
John Moreland,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
yes,
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your motion has been deferred to the November 1st meeting, and I would recommend, or I would direct you to city planning staff with any questions or concerns you may have going forward. Moving on to new business, can we call the first case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100095, property address 513 17th Avenue North. Motion to consider 34-336E1E for lot coverage 42% in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for construction of a swimming pool deck and patio at existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have expert take communication on this item?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
none,
And I've had none. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
My name is Stephen Valentine, and the address, excuse me, I'm the agent for the property. You're going to pull the address up. The address is 513 17th Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach.
Thank you. And can you please describe the nature of the hardship at this property?
The lot size is slightly smaller than the average in the area, so I've researched, and also, I don't know if if this is written as far as a hardship, but the neighboring lots are all significantly higher in elevation. So the proposed project that we're doing shouldn't cause any sort of issues in the surrounding area since all the water will already be contained. And we also plan to put in a drain field to contain the additional square footage that we're going to add.
Any questions for the applicant?
I believe the lot is 10,500, is that correct?
Correct.
And RS1 is 10,000, so it is compliant to square footage requirements in RS1.
Correct, but as far as I've heard, I believe it's a little more narrow than this.
Are you requesting side yard setbacks though?
As far as what we're adding, nothing that we're adding is structural beyond any sort of restriction line, so the setbacks I don't believe would be affected by this. I wouldn't be requesting an additional setback, we're really just looking for additional lot coverage.
Okay. But in an oversized lot though?
Excuse me?
You're requesting lot coverage extension in what is already an oversized lot.
I did not realize it was an oversized lot.
Is this the least you can get by with on proposal? Or is this just what the applicant would like? I mean, it's a big deck.
The pool is already in location, so we've got a surrounding area basically at a minimum. And in order for a sun deck to accommodate on one side and comfortable traffic on the other, we felt that it was kind of the minimum amount. And then the section in the center there that has an octagon at the end, that's a planter. So to kind of help gather water and help it disperse under the patio.
It was noted in our staff report that if you chose to use a pervious material, which the city credits up to 50% lot coverage, that you could reduce the lot coverage to 36% instead of 42%. Has there been any discussion of that?
We looked at it, really, the materials that are offered there don't complement the design as far as what the homeowners are looking for and as far as what accommodates the house that was built. The materials that we're looking to go with really go with the style. So they were very interested in that material.
And the entire darkened area is the decking that does not contain the swimming pool, is that correct?
The entire darkened area has the swimming pool inside of it.
Yes, it was there, and it's hard to see what's right there.
Okay.
And the pool's built with a sun deck already in it, I see.
There's a sun shelf in the pool, but the pool is indicated on the original survey, that one there.
But it has what they call it, sun inside the pool, there's a.
Yes.
I forget the term, but yeah, where chairs can sit in the pool. Just references, what is the dark space above it? Is that?
That's just the
Plantings, okay, that's nothing to do with their square.
Correct, yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant?
The 42% that you're asking for, the pool is subtracted out of the square footage when you calculate that, is that correct?
Correct. The pool's not accounted, but the plumbing is, so we did include that in our square footage
Okay.
as far as what we're requesting.
Okay.
And as far as the drainage plan goes, we're planning on doing about 200 to 400 square foot of area where the water contains and percolates under the ground as well. So hopefully
So you
adding.
were doing swells or you were doing drainage out to the curb? I was trying to find where those dotted lines were.
Those are existing drainage plans, but on each side of the patio, we were looking to add probably about a 10 by 10 area, and partially actually going underneath the patio so that it percolates in that ground underneath there, so as to help alleviate the 42% that we were requesting.
And was that engineered, or are you just basically just doing it as a landscape design?
It is a proposed landscape design to add.
It's not engineered out for capacity of water per rain, for capacity of the slot size at all, is it?
Correct, it is not engineered, but if
Okay,
you guys require it, we could get that done.
item?
No speaker cards. And we don't have any correspondence.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? And if so, please make sure you fill out a speaker's card before you leave. Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100095. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second for discussion.
It's been moved and seconded, and commence discussion.
Not opposed to a pool in Florida.
It's a big deck. It's a lot.
It's a lot of that.
And I would be a little bit more sympathetic to the situation if it was one of those issues where someone bought a house that was already oversized and they didn't have a lot to do with the yard, but the current home is only occupying 29% of the property. And you look at that, the rendering, I mean, the deck is gonna take up almost as much square footage as the house. I'm sure it would be beautiful, but I just don't think that we have a precedent by which to approve it.
So it certainly is not a hardship. And they could downsize the deck on their own without having to come back because he's close to getting the square footage under control.
Yes, and I think they could figure out, not necessarily pervious deck material, but something else on that.
Well, I am impressed that compared to many other people who are putting in swimming pools and decks, he's at least thought about the concept of water percolating under the deck.
Okay, any further discussion?
I've none.
Can we have a roll call vote, please? And keep in mind that the motion on the floor is to approve the request.
Owen Curley,
No.
Jeff Trular,
No.
John Moreland,
No.
Jennifer Williams,
No.
Alexi Gonzalez.
No. Your request has been denied. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100098. Property address 114 12th Avenue South. Motion to consider 34-340E3C1 for a front yard setback of 15 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-340E3C2 for a side yard setback of 5 feet in lieu of 10 feet minimum. And 34-340E3C3 for a rear yard setback in lieu of 20 feet in lieu of a 30-foot minimum to allow for construction of a 3-unit multifamily structure.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I have none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
None.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please be sworn in and give your testimony? And if you're both planning on speaking, you'll both be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and your address.
Peter Hill, 1409 4th Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Please state your name and address.
Michael Pelkey, 1886 Beach Avenue, Atlantic Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you. And can you please tell us the nature of your hardship at this property?
Yes, I just first wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Peter Hill. My wife, Ashley, my best friend Michael Pelkey, and his wife Gabrielle are back here. The four of us partnered up and purchased this property together. We all grew up in Jax Beach. It's been a dream to one day live on the east side of 3rd Street, and now we've found this unique opportunity to accomplish this dream together. The subject property is classified under RN2 zoning. The previous owner recently cleared the lot. There had previously been a 4-unit multifamily structure on the property. We are attempting to develop this property again as a multifamily development. under one LLC ownership with 3 units. My wife and I plan on living in one of these units for the rest of our lives. Michael and Gabriella plan on living in one of the units for the rest of their life. We plan on raising our families here. We've already met and know a lot of the neighbors and are so thrilled to be part of this community. For the most part, feedback has been good. I think a lot of people like the enhancement we are proposing to make to the neighborhood. We think the proposed plan falls in line with the majority of the properties in our block, and also most of the Jacksonville Beach property in our zoning category. And then we plan on owning the 3rd unit 50/50 and renting it out as a long-term rental. Definitely not an Airbnb ever. It'll always be a long-term rental. Yeah, so if you would please just turn to the Exhibit 1. And the reason we're here today is to explain the hardship of the property relative to the existing zoning designation. The table represents a comparison of the 5 different residential zoning categories in Jacks Beach. Our categories at the bottom. Looking at the table, you can see the purpose of each zoning category increases in density going from top to bottom, with a drastic increase in the RM2 category specifically. The lot coverage goes from 35 up to 65%. The inconsistencies exist in the setbacks not changing with these densities. And also I just want to keep in mind that, and you can see it on the next sheet, that only 4.9% of the developable city of Jacksonville Beach is zoned RM2. This high-density residential area is actually quite rare in our city. Most of the residential areas are classified as low density. Because the zoning code was created well after all the RM2 zoned properties in Jacks Beach were created, none of them conform to the proper size. It's impossible for any RM2 lot in Jacks Beach to achieve 65% lot coverage with the allowable zoning setbacks. If you would please put the overall block exhibit that I submitted up.
We don't have the full packet, we just have the minimal that's in the staff report. So I'll have to refer to the paper.
Is that
Okay.
Exhibit 3 in the
Yeah.
packet that you
Okay,
gave us?
it's okay. Okay. All right, so as I said, so the code states RM2 lots must be a minimum of 75 feet wide. According to the existing deed and plat, this lot is insufficient. It does not meet this requirement. It's only 50 feet wide. The code also states the side yards must be a minimum of 10 feet. The intent was to allow for a minimum 55 feet of buildable width. We currently have 30 feet of buildable width. It's not sufficient for a reasonable design to meet the purpose of the zoning. We're simply requesting for a minimum side yard setback of 5 instead of 10, which will allow us to build a 40 foot wide structure, 15 feet less than the intended zoning allowance. We're also requesting a rear setback of 20 feet instead of 30 feet, which conforms with many of the existing surrounding properties. The ability to build 20 feet from the rear lot line will allow us to include a functional 2-car garage and 2 parking spots in the driveway. With a 30-foot rear setback, we are only able to fit 2 cars in the driveway and would not have room for a garage. The 20-foot rear setback allows for 2 additional off-street parking spots in the rear. We're requesting a front setback of 15 feet instead of 20, which conforms with this street. As you can see on the attached exhibit, all of the neighboring lots to our west are approximately 8.5 feet from the front yard, from the front lot line. We're only asking for 15 feet. We're not going to be blocking anybody's ocean view. All the properties to our west are going to stick out about 7 feet further than we are in the front. So just to conclude, we need the space in order to build an architecturally pleasing structure conducive to the area that will bring value and improvement to the neighborhood. We need the space because we feel it's important and beneficial to have 2-car garages, as it will provide additional off-street parking. We're going to have a total of 12 off-street parking spots on our property, which is twice the minimum. We think it's very important because this high-density area, parking does seem to be an issue. So the more off-street parking that we provide, the better it is. And finally, we need this space to develop this property relative to its zoning purpose. We believe the requests we are asking are very minimal and reasonable compared to the rest of the block. And I was hoping to show that on the projector to everybody, but hopefully you guys can see Exhibit 3. We surveyed the whole block, and those are the existing setbacks of every lot on our block. Obviously, we're in an RM2 zoned block, and I believe that the front setback is very reasonable when the majority of the people on our block are well beyond 15 feet. And I also think the 20-foot setback in the rear is very reasonable when, and you can see there's a property on there that's 2.9 feet from the rear property line. It's a tight area. Like I said, the zoning is intended for high density zoned area, 40 units per acre. It's a pretty drastic jump from all the other zoning districts. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Sounds like you've done some homework.
Well, that's, yeah.
We wanted to explain the situation as best as possible.
Just for my reference, we refer to pictures 1 through 7. Is that, what was that? Is that the exhibit?
The pictures.
Those are pictures of the surrounding
Surrounding.
properties. On Exhibit 3, those are pictures of the actual setbacks. The Exhibit 3 is like a bird's eye view,
Okay.
and then the following page is the pictures of the actual property setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to
Sorry,
the property
I
line.
apologize.
Yeah, it's
Can't
okay.
take that out. Thank you.
I have about 10 extra copies if anybody in the audience wants to take a look at it. I don't know if that's allowed or not.
Have you talked to your neighbors?
I talked to some of them. I see a lot of them here.
I know we have a lot of speakers cards for this item. Does anybody have any more questions of the applicant? And keep in mind that I'm sure they'll be brought back up at the end of public comments.
I have none.
I know this time.
All right, well, you can be seated for now, and I will open the public hearing. Can we begin with the speakers cards, please?
Yes, Greg Paquin.
Also, I've had no conversations with anybody about this.
I believe we addressed that.
Do we really?
Yes, but thank you. Okay. And you can be sworn in, Dr. Clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and your address.
Greg Paquin, 127, 13th Avenue South, Unit B. Our property's right behind there. They're in the alley, just to the north of us. And I'd like to see this thing improved because it's empty lot right now, it's just being used as a trash bin. So I would like to see it done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Pamela Rama de Cado.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and your address.
I'm Dr. Pamela Rama de Padua. I'm at 1331 First Street North, apartment 504 in Jacks Beach. I just want to let you know that I've worked here at Baptist Heart for 22 years and lived here for 3 years. And it's really nice to see Jacks Beach grow like this. And I think we need developments like this instead of empty lots. And so I think it's warranted to agree with the variance of 100% agree with variance as stated. And I think you should look at the code so that we can encourage more developments like this.
Thank you.
Robert Branley.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Robert Branley, 127 13th Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach.
Go ahead.
All right. The applicants have taken a lot of time to explain to me what they're trying to do. My unit currently faces the alleyway, which is diagonally across the street from where they are. And I think the proposal makes a lot of sense. I think it'll fit in with the neighborhood. In fact, I live in a 3-unit building that's pretty much the same as what they're asking to do. So I'd like to see the proposal approved. Thank you.
I just have one question, Mr. sir. That back alleyway, is that in good condition?
Say it again?
The back alleyway that we're using for egress to this third unit is in good condition?
Yes, they recently paved the back alleyway, total, about a year and a half ago or so.
Appreciate the information.
Joseph Maraluso.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Joseph Macaluso, 112 12th Avenue South. I'm the adjacent house on the east side of this property. And while I absolutely support the development of the property and the individuals, they've explained to me what they want to do. I've also attended the board meetings on the property across the street and the property on 13th Avenue South. And when it comes to this particular property, if they were to develop further, if the setback towards the 12th Avenue is approved, it absolutely impedes on neighbors on both sides, including myself. Just because it's not a view of the ocean, I recently built in 2019, and that structure would stick out further towards the street than my house does. And in the rear lot, if that house was to be extended an additional 10 or 15 feet, as well as be extended towards a 5-foot setback towards the fence, anybody sitting up on that deck is literally staring down into my backyard into the pool. I totally understand why they want to do it, but I don't know if there's a particular reason or need why there needs to be a third unit there. You could accomplish all the parking they need by having 2 back-to-back units and accomplish the same thing without granting these variances. And so I'm requesting that the board consider the neighbors around it, because while they're saying that the neighbors to the west of them wouldn't be infringed upon, a lot of those structures were built in the 1920s and 30s. And at some point, I'm assuming when those structures are rebuilt, they would have to conform to code as well. And this would just basically perpetuate requiring a variance all the way up the street to the west. So I'm kind of asking that the board consider the future ramifications in addition to the current ramifications, as well as the impact it has on the neighbors around them. I mean, I built my house, I have a 7.5-foot variance on the side of my property. I would be amenable to them having a 7.5-foot variance. But if you go to 5, I mean, you start to run into questions like, if you're giving a variance in the front, the back, and on the sides, where are the HVAC units going to go? Because there's also requirements as far as how far from the lot line they're allowed to be as well. And I'm not sure that they consider all those things unless they're going to put the AC units on the roof.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bruce Wooters.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
My name is Bruce Paul Wouters, and I live at 126 12th Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I'd like to thank this honorable board for hearing me out. I appreciate it. I represent the Russ family who owns the property to the west of this. I respectfully request that you follow the recommendation of this honorable board, the senior planner, Mr. Papoli, and not grant the front and rear setback requests. I've spoken to the 3 owners on the west, Mr. Greaves, Mr. Jeff, and Mr. Millay of Washington, and I think they have written the board and expressed their opposition to this. Mr. Rust has owned the property since 1977. The properties they reference were built before the code was enacted in 1974. As a former attorney, I know the Supreme Court has allowed that if you buy these properties, build a house and block someone's view, that's tough luck for the person. but the grant of variance is a whole other matter. In terms of 34-286-1, there's no special condition particular to this land, not applicable to other properties. The hardship, as I see it on these variances, is they would just like to do it. The properties to the west that were built after the code was enacted, like my neighbor here, conform with that, and he would be, closer to the road than they are, as well as the one that would cross the street on the corner. Is this a minimum variance required to make reasonable use of the land? I say absolutely not. I don't know why they want to be 5 foot from the side, but I know why, because they want more square footage so they can get more money. And lastly, 34-286-6 says it will not adversely affect adjacent landowners. This most definitely will. The rest intend to leave the property to their children so they can enjoy it in the future when their time comes and their call home. So, and also, these folks who are seeking this, they came onto the property, introduced themselves in their Sunday best, and shook my hand, and they led us to believe it was going to be 2 people living there. The orange variance sign mysteriously disappeared after it was posted. I never saw it. My neighbors never saw it. So that leaves me with an uneasy feeling. I really respectfully request that you follow the recommendation of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex Jenkins.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Alexander Jenkins, 3180 Pulliam Court, Jackson Beach, 6250. Guys, I'm up here firing from the hip as more or less a concerned citizen, a business owner, a lifetime resident of this wonderful city. On behalf of the families that are pursuing this project, I hear a lot of rationality in some of the arguments put forth from the dissent, but my opinion is that don't lose sight of the forest and the trees. To purport that any sort of misdeeds have occurred around various signs and what have you is downright disgusting. Peter Hill is the godfather of my child and someone that I know of very high Catholic faith. In fact, we attend men's group on Thursdays at St. Paul's Catholic Church, where he attended grade school. We attended Bishop Penny High School together. The purpose of this project is 2 young men who are entrepreneurs trying to carve their way out in the world, scraping together their pennies to build a lifetime home for their families east of 3rd Street. To answer a question of why 3 units versus 2, cash flow. The opportunity for the lot was great. Locals are being priced out of Jacksonville. I had the great privilege of moving to Austin, Texas for 6 years, where I lived and worked, and I got to witness that city go through a massive evolution. And what ultimately occurred during the period of time that I was there was that local residents could no longer afford to live there. I hear that allegedly we'll see buildings passed on to children, and they'll be the ones whose views may be impacted. But if the last 3 years are any indication, it's going to be more Northerners moving here, buying these wonderful pieces of property and making the price of Jacksonville Beach, where so many of us grew up, unattainable. The hardship is intended to make the cash flow requirements work so that these young families with young children that do attend church on Sunday with their children every week can afford to live here still. So I really didn't know what I planned to say when I got up here, other than to attest to the character of the individuals that are pursuing this project. But in hearing some of the dissent, I felt really compelled to just speak purely to the character. You're dealing with somebody that has gone above and beyond to research this project, who came to me and said, how do I approach this with the neighbors to gain the requisite buy-in and what have you? I hear a wonderful argument put forth by a neighbor that said, maybe we don't give them the whole slice of the pie, but we give them a piece because the variance was granted on a new construction project. But I would challenge the board to, if there is any opportunity, pursue greater understanding of who the individuals are that are here pursuing this, because you've got on one side a family that's been building houses in Jacksonville Beach for decades, and on the other side you have Jacksonville Beach natives that own businesses both as parent and child. And I just think it would be deplorable for us to make Jacksonville Beach something that no one can afford who's actually from here. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Clay Wallace. Clay Wallace.
He didn't want to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Ann Hill said that she did not want to speak, and she's in support of it. Clay Wallace said he did not want to speak, but he was in support of the request.
Are the neighbors? Okay.
Sorry. We back up. Clay Wallace, 807 15th Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach. Does not wish to address the board, but is in support of the agenda item. Ann Hill, 105 Evans Drive, Jacksonville Beach. Does not wish to address the board, but is in support of the agenda item. Tom Hilton.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
My name is Dr. Tom Hilton. I live at 1016 11th Street North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, 32250. And I'm here to support the agenda item. I think the presentation was well done. I'm a cardiologist here at Baptist Beaches. Obviously, a lot of the technical points are beyond my scope of understanding. So I'm here more to speak to the family and my general sense about what would be good for our community. And I'm sensitive to the objections that have been made. They're well.
Sir, make sure that you're addressing the board.
They are well spoken and they make sense, they're cogent, and I understand those objections. That said, I think the aggregate of variables are that the community will be better if this project goes through. If this family is allowed to build the home that they want to live, and if they can live in our community and make it more beautiful, and just, I think these are the kind of families that we want to attract. I support the agenda.
Thank you.
Lisa Hackley, Zero Horn Court, does not wish to address the board, but is in support of the agenda item. Mike Atley.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Mike Atley, and I'm at 545 South Avenue in Neptune Beach. And the reason I came out to speak in support of this is my family's owned a condo at 1031 First Avenue South since 2007 at Costa Brava. So we spent a lot of time in this area. I used to live off 7th Avenue and Jack's Beach as a renter. And my wife and I had built a house off San Pablo because we couldn't afford to build a house at Jack's Beach. Hearing the arguments that we've heard today in support and in dissent of, that's why I'm in support of this, because I missed an opportunity to be able to do what they're doing because I couldn't afford it at the time. Even though I'm in Neptune Beach, I love it. I wish we could have been in Jack's Beach closer to the family and the friends that we spent a lot of time with. So the reason I'm in support is I've seen what's happened with prices of lots going up, cost of construction going up, it's pricing people out. And as the one speaker mentioned, the locals here that want to live here are being priced out. And for the opportunity that these two families have, I think it's a great thing, and I hope you all support it.
Thank you. Myron Blanken Baker.
Please raise your right hand.
Myron Blanken Baker, 105 Evans Drive, Jacksonville Beach.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. And that last name has been butchered many, many times.
So.
Don't feel bad about it. I'm a 34-year vet, resident of the beaches, and most of my time has been spent in Jacksonville Beach. When I came here in 1988, late 1988 with my wife, Jacksonville Beach wasn't what it is today. It just wasn't what it is today. The city leaders and the various committees, this one included, mayors, subcommittees, etc., put together a master plan over that period of time and have executed it well, in my opinion. Jacksonville Beach today is a place where people want to live, and those are all the reasons. The infrastructure changes, the business atmosphere, the business community hospitality, safety through good policing. But the backbone of all of that is good housing stock. And we, as everybody, as many have stated, the locals can get priced out of this very, very quickly. We see what's happening as people migrate to Florida. Jacksonville has been discovered by many people in other states, and to encourage the growth with the local community, I think is to the advantage of the community. On the business side, the variance that is before you today, as I understand it, is simple and straightforward. You know, Peter and Mr. Pelkey have done a lot of research on this. I fully support what they're asking to do. I understand the arguments against the setbacks, but you also have to consider the positives for attracting the right kind of people to this community. You're dealing with the parking issue. There's going to be 12 parking spots on this property if the variance is approved, and it is currently zoned as a high-density area. So to me, the benefits to the city, enhanced parking, you continue to attract people like these individuals who are willing to risk their money, their time, to develop a piece of property, and be good citizens that have the best of the community at heart. And not to mention, to develop this property adds to the Jacksonville Beach tax base. So I would encourage you to seriously consider approving this as written, and allow these gentlemen to move forward with construction. Thank you for your time.
Tim Nail?
Close enough.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Tim Knoll, 127 13th Avenue South. I met with these guys when they were looking at the property after they purchased it. Impressed me as down to earth and the kind of neighbors I want. We have between 1st and 2nd South and 13th and 12th, we have 5 open lots. We would like to see them fill one of those lots. And I approve what they're trying to do. I think they're going to be great neighbors, and they're great people for the city as a whole. Thank you.
That's it for speaker reports. We do have 3 emails and letters in our package, all against. Oh, wait.
Open?
Is there, yes, if there's anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak, you may do so now. Just make sure that you get the clerk your card. Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and your address.
Henry Alley with Millard and Bottom Line Adventures, 3408 Pine Tree Road. Mr. Millard himself, my president of the company, is flying out of the country, you may know him by name, and contractor. And so I met with him earlier, but they're already scheduled, so I'm bringing just he had all the documentation to support this as well. And in my comments, first of all, I commend you all for having the patience, to humanity, to be caring enough to want to do right by the community, by the associations, the beach, the neighbors, and sincerely, I was a Kentucky boy. I only bring that up because I was a builder contractor up there, and went through all the variances and setbacks and zoning and development as well. But in this case, because it's kind of the backyard of a lot of the work that we're doing, the suggestion is less than what could be requested in the order as far as the variances and the setbacks. There is actually more allowance that could have been requested because of the RM2 zoning. So when we talk about 1970s houses being built, that's good and well. I did a historic preservation on in 1864. So that happens, but then development happens alongside that's current. That being said, the setbacks that are proposed are actually not facing the ocean, and the acknowledgement of their setback request is actually giving more room than what others are already at in the 7 and 8 foot variances that are, I mean, the private lands that are there. So I say that the RM2 is one of the factors that needs to be strongly looked at. The property was zoned for 3 units prior to their purchase and acquisition. The ability to do what you can is not always for money, but it's also for lifestyle, to build all that you can that would be accommodating to your home and your family, your hopes and dreams. And so for that reason, I could say, to knowing the individuals also, that a handshake and introduction and saying we're going to be the 2 residents living by you does not mean and conclude that there wasn't going to be 3 units and 3 families. And I think that comment was taken out of context for personal reasons.
Thank you. That concludes our correspondence. Is there anyone else in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak at this time? Hearing none, I'll invite the applicants back up, and you're welcome to address any of the comments made during the public hearing. Go ahead.
Yeah, we just, we want to make it our intent of using this property for its intended purpose of the zoning, the high-density zoning. And like people have said, the prices in Jack's Beach have become astronomical. And we want to do 3 units on this property, as I would be living in one, Peter would be living in one, and we would have a long-term rental on one. That would give us some stability for our long-term, investment of money. We're both young adults starting families, so last thing we want to do is having a high-risk investment or anything. Peter has 2 young daughters. My wife Gabrielle and I are starting our family. So, we want to have a nice, safe structure to begin that foundation with.
Any further questions of the applicant?
I have a few questions. Sure. Just to clarify, if you went to 2 units, this would no longer qualify as an RM3 for 65% lot coverage. I think that one question did come up from the audience.
I'm sorry.
If they went to 2 units, this would no longer be a multifamily.
Actually, in our code, you can do a 2-unit multifamily.
Thank you. Next question.
Some of those things still keep
65%?
Yes.
I didn't see any renderings of the structure. Is this a 3-story flat roof, or is there eaves on it? Because I'm looking at those 5 feet, and I'm not sure what you're coming out, because we don't count that as part of our distance on the gables.
They get 30 inches on the eaves.
30 inches, so they potentially could be 30-inch gables on left and right of this house, but you have no drawings showing what you're planning on this structure. Is there any thought on that?
We were, as a final design, we don't have any final designs yet based on what this setbacks that we are granted for. As far as the design goes, it will be a more kind of modern coastal look. No big overhangs or anything like that. Pretty much standard 16, 18-inch overhangs at the most. More of a flatter roof. It will be 3-story, yes.
And how are you addressing the HVAC equipment?
We've actually revised our plan since we've submitted the site plan. We're planning on putting the HVACs, we don't want to build a big rectangle. We want to have a little bit of movement in our exterior walls.
Okay.
And on the west side of the property, between Unit 2 and Unit 3, we're going to have a bump in.
You're pulling the cord
Yeah,
in, so
we're
it's not exceeding where
It's not going to extend
Yeah,
the setback. We're going to have a bump
Okay.
in on the
So
side.
try and address some more.
Bump in about
It'll
5
basically
feet
be like
in.
a cubby.
Yeah, it'd be like a little cubby. We want to give it a little bit more protection from the weather also.
Then I read through your proposal, I saw your houses, a lot of them have left or right 5-foot setbacks, but I don't see any house that had both left and right 5-foot setbacks. Is that correct?
That is that's the current zoning code you're looking at, the table?
No, I'm looking here. rear diagram.
Oh, okay,
There's no
okay,
definition
gotcha,
of
gotcha,
side
gotcha,
yard.
gotcha.
Because I saw it was left or right, and no, I don't think I saw any house with both left and right 5-foot setbacks.
Yes, I believe there are. On First Street? On
One,
Bob's.
Bob's. And the other question,
Bob, yeah, Bob's. The one directly behind us is pretty much the same thing that we're building. They
okay,
have the
so
same
yes,
thing.
that was his rear fence.
Yeah.
And the other question, one of the testimonies was, this house is going to go out beyond the house that's west of you? Or
No,
east?
that's incorrect. It's gonna be, there's 4 pieces of property to the west of us on our block.
Right.
All 4 of those properties are 8.5 feet from the front.
8'3".
Yes, all
I
4
saw
of them
those.
are 8. They're all in a line. If you look at the next page, I have a picture where I actually took, it's hard to see in the picture, but
Yeah,
you can
it's
see them
awesome.
all in a line.
Okay.
Yeah, our place is gonna be 7 feet behind that. We're at
7 feet behind the.
So 7
Yeah.
feet pulled in
From
from
their,
there.
from their
Yes.
front line.
Yeah, 7 feet pulled in from.
All 4 properties will stick out, the buildings will stick out 7 feet
Further than.
further in the front than our proposed plan.
That's on the east side?
That's all
The
properties
west.
to the west. So everyone on to the west that can see the ocean, we're in no way impeding their vision by 7 feet.
Thank you, that's all the questions I have.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Pardon me?
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have none.
Okay. Then I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100098 based on testimony and evidence provided. The request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I think it was interesting feedback from all the residents around it. I think we're trying to address the questions that they asked.
I think the concerns about the front setback were just addressed.
Yes.
I do also think it's worth noting what the applicants stated, and it's something I hadn't considered initially. But they are under the lot coverage, yet they still are, even by being under the lot coverage, to build this structure, they still require so much relief from code. So I think it's worth considering in this area that they have, it's not an undersized lot, but it's pretty much, right to the size that it's supposed to be. They've built it, not quite to max out the lot coverage, yet they still have issues with the setback. So I think that that's worth considering, especially considering that the only nonconformity is the width, technically, yet they're still unable to build to the full potential of lot coverage without requesting relief from the code. Any further discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
John Malone,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your application has been approved.
Okay,
Call
board,
next, please.
board calls BOA 22-100100, property address 529 11th Avenue North. Motion to consider 34-336E1C2 for a side yard setback of 9 feet on the westerly side in lieu of 10 feet minimum. 34-336E1D for no garage in lieu of a required 1-car garage. 34-336E1E for lot coverage of 50% in lieu of 35% maximum. And 35-376D for a parking area setback of 0 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum to rectify existing nonconformities with the primary structure and driveway and to allow for construction of a swimming pool deck at an existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Do any board members have ex parte communication on this agenda item?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
None. I've had none. So would the applicant please be sworn in and give your testimony? And if you're both planning to speak, you'll both need to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please each state your name and your address.
Sure. It's Eric Hoffman, it's 529 11th Avenue North in Jacksonville Beach.
Thank you. And you're welcome to get a little closer to the mic. It's kind of hard to hear. And could you please tell us the nature of your hardship at your property?
Sure. So we bought this property last year. We love the area by the beach, and when we bought it, we weren't honestly aware of all the zoning rules. And the house that we bought was significantly non-conforming with the lot. Additionally, the lot is too small, so the lot is 8,500 square feet as opposed to 10,000 square feet, and it's too narrow by about 15 square feet. And by about 15 feet, it's too narrow. And as we bought it, the existing property, it's too close to the neighbors on both sides. Driveways don't have sufficient setbacks, so we are asking for, permission to keep the existing nonconformities and bring them to code. And additionally, we're asking for a lot coverage variance of 50%. It says it's in lieu of the 35% maximum, so we could put in a pool. But our existing property, the way we actually bought it, was already at 43%. So we are kind of stuck and unable to do anything. So we are just asking for the bare minimum that we need, which is about 500 square feet of decking, of concrete decking around the pool, as the pool itself doesn't count.
Can you, I don't know if it's possible for you to do this, but can you address which requests correlate to existing nonconformities? Or do they all?
They all do. So even as we are today, we're over the legal amount of lot coverage. And everything else, for all the setbacks and stuff, that's the existing structure that's there right now. We're not doing anything to the structure.
But you are planning on putting in a pool?
Yes, so just the 50%.
Just the extra that we need
Just
for
the lot
the
coverage.
decking of the pool is what we're asking
Gotcha.
for. Everything else is how we bought the house.
Okay.
Seems like the existing driveway drove your lot coverage up quite a bit.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice if you got a lot of cars in the park. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just impeding our ability to do something
Yeah.
there.
And they have no garage, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you considered removing any part of the driveway and replacing it with, a non-paved structure, but I guess in lieu of a garage, maybe that's why the extra parking was put in.
Honestly, we do like if we have parking for 4 cars. I think even if we were to remove it, I think we would still be having the same conversation because I can't get to under 35%. So I'm already over the legal limit, so.
And it's a lot more work and a lot of money to take out a driveway. Like, we've spoken to contractors, like, they're like, $10,000. Just remove the driveway and put in with gravel.
And I will, again, be here to ask for permission, I guess, to go up to the 43%.
And my calculations suggest that if this is a standard size lot, it would be 41% lot coverage.
So a lot of existing conditions they did.
Yeah, before they even occurred themselves, yeah.
Have you spoken to your neighbors, or any neighbors here in support of this?
Yeah, so I spoke to the 2 neighbors specifically who we shared the backyard with, because they're like on the 2 sides of the backyard, basically are the people that are going to be affected by construction of the pool or anything like that, and they were both okay.
And there's no concerns about the 0 parking lot to their property line as well? That's not part of your,
No, those driveways have been there since the house was built.
now we're making conforming on this.
Yes.
What we're moving forward with. No questions there.
Any other questions? All right, then you can be seated for now, and I will open the public hearing. Do we have any cards?
We do have one speaker card, James Hughes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and your address.
I'm James Hughes, 526 11th Avenue North, Jack's Beach.
Go ahead.
I live across the street from these folks. They just moved in from New Jersey. Nice people. I've been doing a lot of work to the property. But the talk around the block is they're going to treat it like an Airbnb, and I'm afraid of that. I have a van, and my parking, I mean, when I back up, I'm afraid that I'm going to hit some cars. They do have 4 spaces off the road, but there's two doors down 534. The guys treating it as an Airbnb, and they block the street. They have parties at night. I talked to the neighbor on the west side, and he says it's terrible at 1 o'clock. They're partying and raising Cain, and I'm trying to keep it as a family neighborhood, not as a racetrack. Cars going up and down. St. Paul's School has got, in the morning, it's absolutely horrible. But anyway, that's what I've heard. Nothing personal against these folks, but I just don't want to see all these Airbnbs coming up. That's it. Thank you. I oppose.
Thank you.
No other speaker cards and no correspondence.
Would you like to come back and address any of the comments made?
Sure.
So right now we live here, we intend to live here. I don't think it'll be fair for us to say we will never rent it out ever in the future to anybody, because that would just not be true. But we've been respectful, we've been living here for at least 4 or 5 months at this time, and hopefully we've never been proud. We've only had guests over 1 time, which was actually this past week, his family. And like the swimming pool is like for our own enjoyment, that we would just like to have a pool in the backyard. And I don't think our parking spots have ever been filled up actually, other than just having 2 cars. So.
And I guess from a concern of a parking perspective, I recognize that there is a house a couple streets down that does have a lot of cars. They have guests. I don't know if they rent it out, but if they do, we can fit, I think 4 is easy. I think you can actually go double and you can fit 8. So if anybody has any concerns about us having people over or impeding his access to his driveway, whatever that Airbnb has from a parking perspective, we have significantly more just for us. We won't be impeding the traffic flow.
Thank you. Any questions, additional questions for the applicant? Okay, you can be seated.
Thank you.
And is there anyone else in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100100. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met the standards for a variance as outlined in section 34-286 Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
And it's rectifying a lot of nonconformities. And as far as the other statement, we have no direction on usage of the property.
Right, yeah. And all of the concerns raised are kind of more code enforcement issues, not the purview of our board. My question about the driveway was kind of the one question I had in reviewing the staff packet, or the board packet and the staff report ahead of time, but when you factor in that this is all the parking they have, there's no designated driveway or carport, kind of makes it easy to say maybe it's best that that's kept there. And
remove driveway from the street.
yep. Any further discussion?
No, but I think just as a matter of course, we are not, have no control over Airbnbs. And that's in part because the state legislature took the power away. There's no home rule in this case. So if anybody has concerns about Airbnbs, you need to talk to your state legislators.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
John Moreland,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your application has been approved. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100101. Property address 517 Patricia Lane. Motion to consider 34-336E1C2 for a side yard setback of 7.5 feet for the westerly side yard and 9 feet for the easterly side yard in lieu of 10 feet minimum, and 34-336E1E for lot coverage of 45% in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for construction of a new swimming pool deck and rectify existing nonconformities at an existing single-family home.
Thank you. Reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak when we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none.
I've had
None.
I've had none. Would the applicant please be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Robert Twig, 517 Patricia Lane North.
Thank you. And can you tell us the nature of your hardship?
So when we bought the house, it used to be a double lot. The lot used to be twice as big. The house was added on to before, not having to worry about lot coverage in the future. You can see the house behind me is the one that they split the lot and they built that. The house as it stands with the driveway, I'm right around 35% of it without any pool deck on now. When I did the pool, I asked the pool guy just to put the coping on and I would do the deck. I misinterpreted what the 35% was. I was new to this area. I thought it was, you had to have 35% left. So after the pool was put in, I put the deck in before the inspection and all that. So it wasn't trying to put the pool in and then put the pool deck in afterwards so that y'all would know about it. I did not understand. So I put the pool deck in myself. The swell puts the water, the pool drains right to left on the screen into the grass area. Haven't had any complaints from either neighbors of any type of water runoff. It was done a while ago. I didn't know it wasn't closed until I came to try to get a driveway permit to redo my driveway. And that's when I found out about this. And I meant to do this earlier, but COVID hit and just got put on the backtrack. Now I'm ready to do the driveway again, but I can't do anything until we do this. Figure out what I gotta do.
Does anybody have questions for the applicant?
Have you talked to your neighbors?
Yeah, we're all friends. They haven't had any issues. The only neighbor that has an issue is from the house behind me. His yard drains into my neighbor to my left, but it's got nothing to do with me.
So you purchased the home before the lot was subdivided?
They divided it when I purchased it.
When you purchased it, okay.
And then they built their house back there.
Okay.
The other stuff he pointed out when he pulled it up that it didn't meet. I didn't know anything about this because of the way it's shaped. And if it helps, when I do my driveway, I'm actually going a little narrower because I'm going to have to go. I've got 4 boys. They're all going to be driving soon. I'm going to try to figure out how to get them in there without being on the road.
So when you applied for the pool permit in 2017 for a coping-only pool?
I didn't apply for it.
The pool guy, okay.
I told him I was going to take care of the deck because I do favors.
Okay. Because I was wondering if you had come in and applied for the pool permit, I would imagine someone from planning would have let you know that the 35% was the amount of coverage that you were allowed to have, not the balance.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I did it, and that's when I found out the wrong way. That I got a long talk to by my wife. So I mean, I'm willing to make changes and make it smaller. It's done now, and I got to figure it out so that I can go up with the driveway.
What materials is the deck made of currently?
It's pavers, just
Pavers.
yeah, it's all pavers. Like I said, and the swell is on this side of the pool, going over the grass on it.
So the driveway that you want to put in or redo,
We'll make it a little narrower so that we can actually, if they need to pull off to the side, they can, because right now it's a big drop off with the concrete.
okay.
They added to the driveway too, whenever they did the house, all this stuff. That's not cheap, like that. There's a skirt on the left that is added, and I think one on the right.
How did you get to 45% lot coverage?
How did I get it?
Yeah,
The actual number?
yeah.
I had the survey done, they came out and measured everything.
Okay, but you did not create the 45% lot coverage, you pre-existed your purchase. of the house.
35 was, I think around 35 already had it.
The deck was
I put 10%, I added 10% when I did the deck.
Okay.
And the deck is all that you added?
Right. Yeah, that's all I had was the deck.
And just for a question of clarity, Christian, do you understand why this application is for a request for a swimming pool? If the swimming pool was permitted in 2017, is it still an open permit?
That's when they saw,
17.
when he came in to close the pool permit,
That's what
I
you're
guess when
saying.
he made the notes, I didn't know about it. And when I thought the pool permit was closed, so when I came to apply for a driveway, I found out the pool permit was still open and why it was still open.
Did you say you pavers?
Yeah,
Did I hear that in general or as
yeah,
a
it's part of
career?
what I offer. I own a tree service too.
Okay.
I do a lot of outdoor stuff.
Is there any thought about using any semi-pervious driveway pavers?
Yeah, I've got no problem. I was gonna do concrete. I haven't actually decided what I was gonna use for the actual driveway.
And that will be exactly what it could be, because this is not part of the driveway application.
Right.
So,
Like I said, I bought the pavers for the driveway too whenever I did the pool, but.
And just a
I
question
never
of-
did it.
so you are a paver and you've done paving in Jacksonville Beach?
I'm sorry?
You're a professional
Duval
paver,
County,
so,
me and my partner did. Yeah.
and you do it in Jacksonville Beach?
I've never done one in Jacksonville Beach with my own.
Okay. But you're not aware of the lot coverage in
No,
paving business? Okay. Just,
it's never been brought up over there.
thank you.
Any other questions?
I've done.
You can be seated for now, and I will open the public hearing. Any speaker cards? And no correspondence? Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak? And if so, please fill out a card before you leave. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve BOA 22-100-101 based on the testimony and evidence provided. The request has met all standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 Land Development Code.
I'll second for discussion.
It's been moved and seconded.
I struggle with this.
Yeah, me too. It's only from pavers around the pool. If it was, I don't even want to say if it was. I mean, it's something that is not part of the structural integrity of the home. It's something that was completely self-inflicted by the owner. It's, you know, in the big scheme of things, it's a relatively easy fix. I mean, easier than maybe some other things that have come before the board. And it's a odd shaped lot, but it's a very large lot.
But I will say I'm supportive of the giving modification for the side setback.
Yes.
Yes.
That's an existing. And prevent that from being rejected and causing more of a challenge. Make a friendly motion or something.
Oh, you're all
If we were to deny this, could he kind of reevaluate his property in the driveway and think of that as an option, because he's already going to tear it out to put gravel in lieu of cement, and then come back to us to get, then he won't be over the the limit, so you wouldn't have to remove the decking on the pool.
I believe it's the applicant that had to come back to reduce it.
You could
But
also
I'm
do a
saying if he were
variance.
to remove the driveway and put the gravel, he won't be able to, that would be the solution for him. He does have a solution, is the point I'm making.
But he would also have to be approved for the variance to put in the gravel-only driveway.
Yeah, but that's a point that it would be a solution.
Right.
This is not
Has
something that
other
he doesn't have a
options.
solution. He's looking at removing the driveway today.
Sure.
Correct.
So he has a
Reducing
solution.
a lot,
Yep.
product or something, but, yeah, I'm still in support of making the motion adjustment to improve the size.
Mhm.
I would do that.
I move to amend, to approve, BOA 22-100-101 for, side yard setback, 7.5 feet on the westerly side and 9 feet for the easterly side in lieu of 10 feet. And not for the increase of lot coverage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call on whether or not to amend the motion?
John Moreland,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. So we have amended the original motion that was made, and the motion that is now on the floor is only for relief from the side yard setback requirement, not for any other parts of the request. Is there any discussion on the motion as amended?
I have none. No?
No.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please, on the amended motion?
John Moreland,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request for side yard setbacks has been approved, and your request for relief from the lot coverage has been denied. Can we call the last case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-100-102, property address 1706 Oakwood Lane. Motion to consider 34-336E1C3 for a rear yard setback of 20 feet in lieu of 30 feet minimum. 34-373D for a 0-foot driveway setback along the south property line in lieu of 5 feet minimum required to allow for the enlargement and enclosure of an existing screen porch attachment to an existing single-family dwelling and rectify a non-conforming driveway.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. I've had none.
I've had none.
None.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Please each state your name and address.
My name's Stephen Boyer. My address is 695 Haywood North, unit number 55, Palm Beach, Florida, 32082.
My name is Katrina Shrestha, and that is 665 Avon, unit 55, Palm Beach.
Thank you. Can you please describe the nature of your hardship at this property?
Sure. So it's kind of 2 parts here. There's the back patio to extend outwards. The lot, as you can see, is kind of like shaped like a kind of a flat triangle there. The rear of the house right now is, I think, 32.9 feet from the rear property line. And what we're looking to do is we're trying to extend out the patio a little bit from where it is right now. So we're looking for a rear yard setback of 20 feet and we'll have 30 feet on that, and also we'd like to enclose it with less. The previous variance was only for a nursery. The other part of it, you can't see in this picture here, but the previous owner, there you go, he widened the side driveway there. Basically encroaching on my neighbor's property, but we're also looking for a variance for that. It was a pre-existing condition when he's been in the property. I've spoken with the neighbor,
times, like if he has an issue, all the time he said no. And it was like one of the Peter, when we were buying the property this year, it's like, it was like a very nice holiday. So it's been there 2 years. So.
Yep, and then the lot to the rear of the property is a city-owned drainage ditch, so there's no back there.
Any questions for the applicant?
I had none. I take it that the hardship that you're experiencing is the shape of the lot and the pre-existing structures?
It is, like, I mean, it's 0.32 acres, I think, so it's a great size lot for beaches and everything like that. But the size of the house, so the master's on the southern side, and then the other side is like a second bedroom, so having a patio entrance off that would be a little strange.
Yeah, it's
I think there's also, there's rules in the code about whether the pool can even be anywhere but the rear of the house, right?
Yeah, accessory uses have to be in the rear of the house. They can't be far in the front plane, and pools can't be in the side yard.
So even though they have like that buildable space, even if it wasn't a pre-existing condition, like even if they were putting in a new pool, it would have to go
Behind
in
the
the
house,
rear
yeah.
yard, which is undersized.
Right.
I will say that I got there to look at the property as the garbage was being picked up, and so I actually had to pull up into the driveway. It's a big driveway.
Any other questions for the applicant for now? All right, you can be seated, and I will now open the public hearing. Can you call the speaker card, please?
We have one speaker card, Joseph Martin.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address.
Joseph Martin, 1778 Oak Breeze Lane, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And I am opposed to the 0-foot driveway setback request. We need to correct an error on page 2. At the bottom of the page, it says there's a 1-car garage. Mr. Boyd has a 2-car garage and a 20-foot wide driveway. 4 cars can be parked on Mr. Boyd's original driveway. Even after removing the 5-foot section of the new concrete along the easement, the remaining concrete slab will still accommodate 2 more cars. That is 6 cars. Compared to his neighbors, Mr. Boyer is not enduring any off-street parking hardship that forced to reduce the paved area from an 8-car to a 6-car driveway. Next, I refer to the variance application standard condition form, which is my page 9. I do take accepting the completion of this form as submitted and presented. Mr. Boyer is requesting 2 different variances. One is for adjusting the backyard setback in support of a planned sunroom. The other is a variance concerning an existing easement violation. I believe it is wrong to join a desired setback adjustment and a current easement violation together on the same form. These are totally different actions for board consideration, and for clarity, each one should have their own variance application form. Point 4, the third standard on the variance application page states, granting variance will not confer upon the application any special privileges. However, as shown on the board, the new slab as laid constitutes the taking of the neighbor's property. Mr. Rainey Brooks is the homeowner of 1718 Oak Breeze Lane and shares the property line of Mr. Boyer. As clearly reflected on the land survey, approximately a 40-foot length by nearly 4-foot section at its widest point of concrete is poured onto Mr. Brooks' land. The survey clearly states on the form, concrete drive crosses the property line. If the board approves this easement variance, are you not also agreeing to Mr. Boyer's annexation of Mr. Brooks' land? Currently, he can park his car on his paved area that extends over 3 feet into Mr. Brooks' property. What if Mr. Brooks' children are playing in the front yard and a child falls, breaking his arm on the concrete corner of Mr. Brooks' yard? Does Mr. Boyer have any liability for this? And could the board, fully aware of the trespass in Mr. Brooks' property, be thought negligent by approving this variance? I do believe exposure exists for Mr. Boyer and the board and is unnecessary. Point 4, I ask the board to refer to Mr. Boyer's letter to the zoning committee outlining his plans for his new sunroom. He desires a setback variance to demolish his 12 by 16 screen room and build a 16 by 16 sunroom. I believe this will be an impressive sunroom, but it also sounds like a large and expensive project. Mr. Boyer doesn't disclose the cost of this new sunroom. Is it $30,000, $40,000? I don't know. Does the board even care about the expense of this major project? I believe it's outside the purview of the board to determine how this project is financed or is fiscally responsible to add a sunroom to his home. And last reference to this letter is to step 1 of the sunroom plan. I quote, the existing screen room and concrete slab will be demolished. That is it. Existing screen room and concrete slab will be demolished. I asked the board on the same day the screen room 12 by 16 slab is demolished, why can't he go to the front and take out the 5-foot section of concrete along with the property line in order to satisfy the easement requirement? According to the variance page, having this would be create a financial hardship. Financial hardship cannot be a deemed valid circumstance for consideration in this variance request. I can take out the concrete in my back porch, I can't take out the concrete on my street.
Thank you, sir, your time has expired.
Yes.
Would the applicant care to address the comments made?
Really only a couple things. We are remodeling the house, we are putting in a screen room. I looked up like, raw quotes on like moving concrete. It's like Google has either $2 to $6 or $10 to $13 a square foot. It'd be an extra few $1,000 to remove this. We bought the house with this pre-existing condition. We don't want to have to basically put out the extra funds at this point. The neighbor to the south bought the house 2 months ago, so he bought it with the driveway already existing. He was already aware of everything.
Like we are remodeling the house, needs so much work that we have been like fund right now that we are allocated to do the finishing inside, and if you have to do something extra, I will definitely do the setback. And like I'm not putting anything in personal with this injury, like it is like it will bring us a little bit financial hardship to us if we have that add-on to this proposal.
Any other questions for the applicant?
None.
Okay. Then I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve POA 22-100102. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request is met all the standards for a variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second for discussion.
It's been moved and seconded, and that's with discussion.
This is house built, this is not that old.
There's,
1989.
I think there's a distinction between a zero lot variance versus an encroachment. Because if there's anything on the other neighbor's property, they can remove it. If it's going over, it's not a taking.
Right, the
They need to
neighbor
remove
could
it.
just
Yeah. So we're just talking about zero lot line versus the other. And that's a big distinction to me.
I think
Yeah,
this survey
that's
does
a
show it
great
crosses
point.
the property line, right?
It does, meaning that anything that encroaches on the neighbor's property, the neighbor is entitled to remove, right? Christian?
That's correct, yeah. I was actually gonna make that thing.
But also, they're not over their lot coverage, so, again, yeah, the neighbor's entitled to do whatever they want once it's crossed into their own property line, but as for any of the other existing, lot coverage that's there being removed, which I know was brought up in public comment, they're still under their lot coverage maximums, so,
Well, their lawn is 13,000 plus
yeah.
square feet. Yeah, but the shape is really the hardship.
My question's more focused on that side driveway. Long driveway there.
I know it won't, I guess it won't, matter for this, but, so you have to have do you have to have a variance to enclose an existing screen porch, or is the variance only required because of the setback?
The variance is required for the setback, because they are extending it an additional 2 feet, but the previous variance that gave them 22 feet was conditioned to be a screen enclosure, as opposed to an actual addition to the house.
That was conditioned by the board?
Yes.
6% vented.
Yeah, it was very specific. I don't know the history on it, but. So in this case, to override that, we would need a variance, but then in addition, they're asking to push out 2 feet to bore the footer for the windows.
Okay. They can't build on the same footage support.
Right, it's just a very simple thing.
It's not making larger, just with
Any other discussion? All right, can we have a roll please.
Owen Carly,
Yes.
Jeff Trular,
Yes.
John Marlin,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your application has been approved. Moving on to the planning department report.
I assume everybody got the email I sent about the upcoming meeting with planning commission, but just looking at the link real quick.
Actually, I think it's someone's political ass and maybe.
That's fair. Let me go to that website real quick. I want to say it's the 27th. In essence, we're having the public hearings for the comp plan and land development code update. And there's a joint meeting with this board and the planning commission, and it is scheduled for October 27th at 6 p.m. There's a link I sent that actually has the website that is like a dedicated website for
Yeah,
this
there's
project.
something on it right now.
Just the dates for the hearing currently and links to the existing documents. There's also some question and answer pages, which feel free to distribute to anyone who's got questions that may approach you guys as we go through this process. They kind of cover the basic vocabulary and some of the terminology and kind of the process and what the comp plan is, those kind of things. And then as the consultant and staff present things, we'll have those PowerPoints up on there. When they start correlating data, they'll start putting those things up on there. So as the project progresses, it'll get more detail.
Sorry, what's the date again?
The 27th of October.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And we believe it'll be in here, but depending on the first couple meetings that we have in October, we may end up at the Parks Department at the meeting facility over in Sunshine Park.
Okay, I have it on the calendar. You sent the calendar, that's what I'm saying.
I did that, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
But otherwise, yeah, that's going to be the beginning of the big project, so bring all of your knowledge and experience. I think you guys will like the consultants. They're very professional. They've done a lot of this work, and they're very technical staffing, so I think it'll be a good project. That's all I have.
And the next scheduled meeting is
October 4th.
Tuesday, October 4th, with 4 scheduled cases.
I do not believe I will make that, I'm sorry. I have a budget detail because it was a problem.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.